Y'all, stop what you're doing right now because the calm is over and the King of Queensbridge just threw gasoline on a fire that might never burn out. Nas has officially broken his silence, and the way he did it. Cold, calculated, and absolutely savage. A newly leaked track, allegedly from Nas' private vault, is going viral for one reason. It takes direct aim at Jim Jones and leaves nothing unsaid. We're talking decades of tension, dislines decoded, old beefs resurrected, and a level of disrespect that has hip-hop veterans calling this the beginning of a new civil war. And the craziest part, Nas never even said his name, but everybody knows exactly who he's talking about. Now Jim Jones is spiraling. Cam'ron is sending subliminals, and legends like Jadakiss and Fat Joe is trying to stay neutral before it gets ugly. What triggered this? Why now? And what in the world did that leaked track reveal about what Nas really thinks of Dipset? This ain't just beef, this is hip-hop history being rewritten in real time. And trust me, by the end of this video, you'll never hear Nas or Jim the same way again. To understand why this new leak from Nas is sending shockwaves across the entire hip-hop landscape, we gotta rewind the clock way back, because this ain't some overnight drama. This is the kind of slow-cooking tension that's been bubbling behind studio walls, locked interviews, and side-eyes on red carpets for nearly 2 decades. And now, the pot finally boiled over and the steam is scorching. Flashback, a tale of 2 New Yorks back in the early 2000s. Hip-hop was a battlefield, and New York was split between 2 kingdoms. Queensbridge, ruled by Nasir Jones, the lyrical prophet, the philosopher, the god MC. Harlem, dominated by Dipset, the flashy, gritty, unapologetic clique, repped by Cam'ron, Joel Santana, and the ever-mouthy Jim Jones. Both had their lanes, both had their cults. But what they didn't have: respect for each other. Nas looked at Dipset like clowns in rhinestone bandanas. Jim Jones looked at Nas like an overrated poet stuck in 1994. And while Cam and Nas never outright declared war, the unspoken shots flew in the form of album skits, freestyles, and radio rants. Then, things got personal. Jim Jones' petty era begins. It started subtly. Jim would get on mixtapes or Power 105 and throw little jabs. Y'all keep calling that man a king, but what kingdom he runnin'? Ain't nobody following Nas like that. He'd laugh it off, but the shade was real and consistent. Then came that 2016 interview, the moment that changed everything. Jim said, flat out, I ain't never really feel Nas. Ain't never inspire me. Man sound like he repin in hieroglyphics. The disrespect was bold. The timing was intentional, and fans could tell. Jim was trying to shake something loose. But Nas said nothing, and that silence, it drove Jim crazy. Nas' strategy: kill with silence, strike with legacy. While Jim was yelling in interviews, Nas was making power moves. He dropped Life is Good, Nasir, and then hit everyone over the head with King's Disease, back-to-back Grammy-nominated projects that proved he was aging like fine wine. He wasn't responding. He was building with each track, each award, and each sold-out show. Nas made it clear, I don't need to speak. My catalog speaks louder than your mic ever will. But still, behind the scenes, the whispers grew. Yo, is Nas ever gonna address Jim? Why don't he say something? He too classy or just petty as hell? Turns out he was BOTH 2023. Jim tries again, and it backfires hard. Fast forward to last year. Jim goes on a podcast and names his top 50 rappers list. Guess who wasn't on it? Nas. Guess who he put above Nas? Yo, I got Future. Young Thug? Hell yeah, Drake. But Nas? Nah. The internet dragged him Hard, even Cameron Loki distanced himself, saying, "My list gone, always have legends. I grew up on Illmatic, you already know." But Jim doubled down. On Instagram Live, he smirked and said, "I said what I said. Nas is cool for the 90s, but he ain't relevant like that now." And just like that, the seed was planted. The vault track Nas was waiting insiders now claim Nas had this track recorded for Months. Just sitting in the vault. Why? 'Cause he was waiting. Waiting for the perfect time to strike. Waiting for Jim to run his mouth. One more time, and now, with that recent IG Live clip making rounds again, the dam finally broke. That track. It's the most surgical takedown since Ether. And fans are already calling it, "This ain't a diss. This is a lyrical eulogy." Nas just did what Jay-Z was too rich to do. Jim better go back to weatherman duties, 'cause the forecast is shady. Why it matters now, this leak isn't just igniting old beef. It's reopening old wounds in hip-hop's Nick legacy. We're not just watching a one-sided feud. We're watching generational icons clash over relevance, respect, and the future of the game. On one side, a legend with nothing left to prove but everything to protect. On the other, a hustler with a mic, a legacy of chaos, and a desperate need to be heard. And now, as this leaked Nas track circles every blog, Twitter thread, and group chat, one thing is clear. Jim asked for smoke. Nas gave him an inferno. The leak dropped at 2:16 a.m. with no title, no tags, and no official drop location. Just a link. A quiet, eerie Dropbox link shared by a burner Twitter account named @BraveheartsBack. With one cryptic caption, he said, "I wasn't relevant. I made relevance a religion." And just like that, the vault track that fans had only heard rumors about was out in the wild. And when people pressed play, they heard Nas like they hadn't heard him in years. Vicious, cold, precise, and poetic as hell. The track's opening, Ghost of 96. The track opens with the sample of a Harlem Block Party bass, booming, people laughing. Old Dipset ad-libs faintly in the background. Then silence, and Nas enters. No hook. No chorus. Just bar after bar of unfiltered lyrical warfare. Heard. A court jester barkin' while the throne stood still. Talkin' relevance while I ink legacies with no chill. I drop classics in silence. They scream for attention. But loud doesn't equal skill. Just failed retention. Let's be clear. That was a direct shot at Jim's antics. The interviews, the trolling, the "I said what I said" moments. And Nas didn't stop there. You parade in jewels I owned before your buzz. I was battlin' real gods. You was yellin' "We fly high" just because. Lip-synced legacies ain't legends in real light. You need the clout. I need the mic. Fans lost it. X, formerly Twitter, blew up with reactions like, "Nas just called Jim a glorified hype man with a mic that jewels. I owned before your buzzline is nasty." This isn't a diss. This is a slow-motion headshot. The first twist, Nas disses Dipset as a whole, just when you thought this was a solo beatdown. Nas widened the target. Halfway through the track, he shifts tone. Used to see M and Pink Minks, loud chains on loud blocks. Now they podcasting pain, blaming streams for flops. You was movement, not music. Influence, not pen. Legends, not measured in memes, but the messages within. That podcasting pain line. Straight shade at Cam and Jim's "It Is What It Is" show, turning sports commentary into a therapy session masked in jokes. Said I was stuck in 94. That's cute. But I taught 94 how to talk, walk, and shoot. You sold outfits. I sold truths. You went viral. I went root. Root, as in foundational. That's Nas saying you needed cameras. I am the culture. The culture. Jim's immediate reaction, and it's embarrassing within 3 hours of the leak going viral. Jim Jones was live on Instagram, pacing, red-faced, and clearly unprepared. He started off laughing it off. Come on, man. This what y'all waited for, that poetry slam talk. But within minutes, he snapped. Y'all really hyping this man for throwing indirects. Say my name like a man. I ain't ducking nothing. You could never outshine me in Harlem or outrap me in real time. But fans weren't buying it. In the comments, Nas said more in 8 bars than Jim did in his whole career. If this was a boxing match, the ref would have stopped it already. He said root and ended this man's ancestry. Even celebrities joined the chaos. Questlove reposted the track saying, "This is the sound of a chess master moving kings." Lupe Fiasco tweeted, "Nas has done to Jim what a scalpel does to tissue. Precise, clean, fatal." The studio. That leaked it. There's a conspiracy, ... Now, here's where it gets deeper. Johnny, a blog called The Rap Files, just posted an article saying the leaked track was recorded at Electric Lady Studios in NYC last October. Why is that important? Because Jim Jones was spotted outside the same studio that week. Filming a reel with Menno. Fans are now piecing together that this track might have been created specifically in response to Jim deliberately sat on until the right moment and leak. Not by accident, but by DSIGN even, the blog's inside source hinted. Let's just say the track was always going to see the light. The only question was WHEN. Nas played chess. Cameron responds with silence. And a caption, Cameron didn't post any video, didn't go live, didn't even speak directly about the track. Instead, he posted a photo of himself holding a glass of wine with the caption, "Some of y'all was never in the tunnel, and it shows that's a coded Nas reference." The tunnel was a legendary NYC club and Nas' spiritual home turf. Cam knew what he was doing. Fans in the comments were quick to decode. Translation: this your beef. I'm not dying on that hill. Cam backing out quietly. This civil war bout to split Dipset. The fans pick sides and lines are being drawn across hip-hop, Twitter, Reddit, and YouTube. A full-blown civil war of generations has erupted. On one side, the Nas disciples, bar-heavy, soul-deep, lyric-loving OGs who see this as a victory lap. On the other, the Jim apologists folks saying it's all about energy, culture, and staying relevant in 2024. Even artists are picking quiet sides. Joey Bada, $$ posted, "Ain't no age on bars. Respect the pen." Vivio Foreign tweeted, "Harlem forever, we stand on 10. This ain't just a diss track. This is about legacy versus longevity. Bars versus bravado. Respect versus relevance." And the craziest part, we're only halfway through, because hidden in the second verse is a coded message, a line fans believe might be a sneak diss at Jay-Z too. Just when the dust barely began to settle, the second verse of Nas's leaked track blew the lid off. Something much deeper than beef. This wasn't just a personal takedown anymore. It was a full-blown expose on backroom deals, secret favors, and the power circles shaping hip-hop from behind the scenes and the target. Might not have just been Jim. It might have been Jay-Z too. The line that shook Twitter midway through verse 2. Nas dropped a bar that had the whole internet pressing pause. "He wore your chain, but ain't earn your code. Labels play chess while y'all arguing Morse. Kingmakers don't bark, they just ghost from the board. Watch who you vouch for. Some kings bend the sword." Let's unpack that. He wore your chain, but ain't earn your code. Fans immediately pointed to the moment Jim Jones joined ROC Nation Management back in 2017. Remember that? After years of beef, Jim signed under Jay-Z's ROC umbrella even after publicly clowning Hov for years. Labels play chess while y'all argue in Morse. Translation: the real moves happen silently. Executives like Jay-Z are making power. Plays in silence while artists like Jim are out here yelling in interviews and chasing podcast clout. K-makers don't bark, they just ghost from the board. Another potential Jay-Z jab, suggesting that Hov's refusal to get involved publicly isn't because he's above it, but because he's orchestrating it all behind closed doors. And lastly, watch who you vouch for. Some kings bend the sword. Fans believe this is Nas calling out Hov directly, accusing him of propping up unworthy artists for business reasons, even if it means betraying the very culture they built. Ouch. Is Nas dissing Jay-Z? Again, this isn't the first time. Nas and Jay have exchanged subliminals, but after their infamous Ether versus Takeover beef seemed buried. Most believed they'd squashed things, so why now? According to leaked DMs from a verified industry insider, Nas has been fed up with the fake unity front for a while, especially after what he allegedly called a chessboard stunt when Hov welcomed Jim to ROC Nation. One message read, Nas always knew that was a photo op. Jimmy was never respected there. He just helped checkmate Kem. Nas saw the play. What? If this is true, it means Hov allegedly used Jim as a pawn to weaken Dipset's influence and gain leverage over Harlem loyalty. A move Nas deeply resented. It's giving Game of Thrones, but with platinum plaques. Fake Twitter thread. Leaks the real history. A viral fake Twitter thread from @BrooklynDecoder laid it out like a murder board. 2001, Jay vs. Nas. Beef explodes. 2005, Cameron starts ROC fella beef. 2010, Jim starts dissing Nas again. 2017, Jim signs to ROC Nation. 2023, Jim says Nas isn't relevant. 2024, Nas drops ghost diss with Jay. Lines one tweet went crazy viral. Jay been using these clowns as pieces, while Nas out here building pyramids. Y'all can't see the difference. Another read. Jimmy really thought he got a deal. Hov gave him a leash. Sheesh. Meek Mill and Conway jump in suddenly. It wasn't just fans dissecting lines. Actual rappers were reacting. Meek Mill tweeted, "Real ones peep the politics. Ain't about bars no more. It's about business." Fans quickly linked that to Nas's line about Kingmakers ghosting, claiming Meek was siding with Nas and calling out ROC Nation politics. Meanwhile, Conway the Machine reposted the leaked track on his IG story with, "This what y'all call irrelevant? Nah, this that big ghost talk." It's clear, even the new school ain't staying quiet. YouTube comments turn into a lyrical war zone. Under every video breaking down the track, comment sections have become battlefields. Nas told Jim he was an intern in rap history. Jay used Jim to cancel Cam chess, not checkers. This is bigger than bars. It's about who OWNs the culture. One viral comment had over 2K likes. Nas didn't just diss Jim. He reminded everyone who built the house. These new cats renting. The sentiment is clear. Fans are riding with Nas, but there's a darker undertone. Some commenters believe this leak is just the beginning of something much more dangerous. Who leaked the track? And why now? Here's the real twist, fam. A post on Hithapinceater's claims the leaked file was never meant for the public, and that the original Dropbox link came from a hacked studio. Engineers cloud. But another source said something much more explosive. That leak was intentional. Somebody in NASA's team sent it out anonymously. It was a warning. A warning to who? Jim? Jay? The whole industry? Either way, insiders believe this leak was NASA's way of saying, "I've been quiet for the voicemail that blew the roof off late last night. A Twitter user known as @INDUSTRYDROPZ posted a grainy 38-second clip with the caption, "This was never supposed to go public. Internal call from a Dipset affiliate. Listen close." And what we heard changed. Everything in the voicemail, a deep male voice says, "Yo, we can't stop the leak. It's already in NASA's people's hands. I told you we shouldn't have let Jimmy go on that podcast run. Now look." The old man woke up. Then, after a pause, tell Redacted to fall back. If he claps back now, it's gone looked forced. Let it burn for a while. It's good for visibility. Excuse me? Let it burn. Visibility. This wasn't damage control. This was strategy. A premeditated decision to let Jim take the heat, to soak up the controversy, the press, and the outrage. All in the name of numbers, and if that ain't the grimiest thing you've heard all week. Buckle up. Was Jim set up to boost ROC Nation? BUZZ. Rumors are swirling that this internal leak was never meant to help NAS, but rather to trigger a response boost podcast and streaming numbers, and distract the culture from another major business deal going down in the background. Leaked email thread allegedly from a ROC Nation PR assistant hinted at a coordinated buzz rollout involving multiple artists, and get this. One of the artists listed, Jim Jones. Could it be that Jim's podcast disses about NAS were orchestrated from the top? A marketing move disguised as personal beef. Did someone give Jim the green light to go at NAS? Knowing full well that NAS would come back with something lethal. And now? Jim's the one catching strays, while the suits count the streams. Cameron finally breaks his silence, and if that wasn't enough, Cameron just dropped a voice note on Instagram, and it sounds like he ain't with the setup at all. Ayo. I told y'all not to poke at that man. Quaysbridge is quiet until it ain't. Jimmy knew what it was. Don't drag me into it. I'm on my pink horse, sipping tea. Classic Cam, but he's not denying anything. He's just saying, I warned y'all. And that is telling. The real question, who leaked NAS's track? Because here's the wild part. Insiders close to NAS are now claiming off-record that NAS didn't even want this track out. That it was part of a scrapped concept album that never dropped. And someone from his circle leaked it anyway. Why? To send a message. One producer, who asked to remain anonymous, said, NAS wasn't trying to beef, but he's not gone, let folks play. With his name, that track was sitting for months. Somebody close to him got tired of the disrespect and made a decision. So now we're in the middle of a full-blown hip-hop civil war, ... triggered by one podcast, one reckless diss, one leak NAS didn't plan, and a storm that nobody knows how to stop. Cliffhanger. NAS isn't done yet right before this video ends. Y'all need to know this. A verified audio engineer just DM'd at Raptic Daily on Instagram and claimed there's a full third verse. It's already recorded, and he names names, this time names, as in Jay, Jim, Cam, Beans, even. Meek, we don't know when it'll drop. We don't know who's gonna survive it. But we do know this. When NAS drops, verse 3, the culture might not recover, y'all. This wasn't just another diss track. This was a lyrical eulogy, a cultural warning, a reminder that real bars still run the game, and NAS just proved it without even announcing a single thing. But now the question is on you. What do you think? Was Jim Jones being used as a pawn by his own people to create controversy and boost their brand? Was NAS too harsh? Or was this the perfect lyrical clapback after all the disrespect? And most importantly, do you want to hear verse 3? Because if what we heard was just 2/3 of the heat NAS been holding in silence, then verse 3 might just flip the whole culture upside down. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Right now, Team NAS, if you believe the King of Queensbridge just reminded everyone why he's a GOAT. Team Jim, if you think this was too much and Jimmy deserves his moment to strike back. Or type verse 3 now if y'all ready for the next explosion to hit the internet. Like this video if your jaw dropped at least once. Subscribe if you want to be the first to hear what drops next. And hit that bell because you already know this war ain't over. The leaks are coming. The silence is strategic. And when verse 3 lands, we'll be right here, breaking it all down. Until then, stay tuned, stay dangerous, and never underestimate a quiet legend. It's not just hip-hop anymore, it's history in the making.